Hey everybody, welcome back to Tying Tuesday here with AvidMax. My name is Taylor Conley, and today we are going to be tying up a fly that I found in a fly shop years ago, and I have not been able to find since, so I am forced to tie it. And since I can't find it, I don't remember the name, so I'm going to call this one the rocket worm. Let's buckle up and tie a fly together. To start out, for a hook, I'm using the Ahrex 554 jigged hook. Not quite as level as I would like. There we go, a little better. All right, start out with that, and then for thread, I'm using Semperfli Classic waxed in 12-aught. This is probably a little light. You could get away with, 10, 8, 6-aught, but this is what I got on me, so it's what we're gonna use. We're gonna start out with a thread base here, so we'll kind of wrap up through the bend of the hook, and I'll wrap down into the eye, just like that. Cover everything up. Drummer tags before I forget. And then work our base down the rest of the way. We don't need to be super particular about how much we cover with our thread. This is all going to get covered up nicely later, but just for the sake of argument, we will stop at about the hook point, and our first material we're going to grab is some rabbit strip here. So this is from Wapsi, and the color is Leech red. It's a pretty deep, dark red. I like it. It's a little more natural than kind of your typical San Juan worm chenille red or anything like that. And what I'm gonna do, if you can see this on camera, is I'm gonna cut some of the fur off of the hide of this strip. I'll show it to you here better in a minute. Just to expose that hide so we can tie in. So if you can see that, just a little enough. I like to leave just a teeny tiny bit of that hair on the actual hide, because I feel like the thread catches that better and it's less likely to slip. Get off my fingers, three. And for the length, I want to do about the entire length of the top of that hook before the bend, the shank. So I got it a little long, which is fine. We'll trim off some excess. That one looks a little better. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to invert this. So we're gonna tie it where the hair is facing down, in a sense, or towards the hook point. I think that gives it a little better action and maybe just looks a little more realistic. Who knows if there's actual fact to that, but I like it, so that's the way I tie it that way. So we'll do one loose wrap just to kind of secure it on there. This hide does like to move around a lot, so I like to pinch it down as I tie forward. And then we'll wrap back to finish securing that down, and we want to wrap to about where I left the fur on the hide. So just to give you a look there, the undercarriage. We'll wrap that forward. And now that we have the hide just to the bend of the jig, I like to wrap in my eyes right here. So I'm using some Fulling Mill, I think 4mm. Yep, 4mm eyes. In tungsten, I like the weight of this. So we're just gonna do the typical crisscross thread wraps. And I think it's a little hard to see. I'll show you, maybe that one's a little better. I like to leave as much room as I can between the eye and the top of that bend. So I'm essentially tying in the dumbbell eyes right at the bend of the hook right there. Because when we wrap some chenille over that towards the end of the process, it doesn't crowd the eye of the hook, so you can still tip it in there. So we'll give it, you know, lots of the crissy-crossies, really make sure that thing's cinched down, and then we'll tie back to the bend. And at this point, I like to hit it with a little bit of super glue just to lock everything down. I feel like the eyes don't slide as much when you super glue them to the hide versus if it was just string on a hook. So that's kind of why I do things in the steps that I did. So a couple dabs there. Go ahead and zap it. Make sure everything's good to go. All right, and then for the body of this, I'm using just some fine chenille from Hareline. The color's Claret. On this one, I think it pairs really, really well with the Leech red from Wapsi. So we're just gonna tie in. I like to keep the body relatively big, so I'll kind of leave a little excess as I tie it in. Tie that in and then just slowly work thread wraps forward to right behind the dumbbell eyes. And we'll grab our chenille, make sure we're not pulling any hair along with it, and just start doing some wraps forward. You really don't have to worry about making this too bulky or overcrowding it. But we want to wrap right up to the base of the eyes. I'm going to send my thread forward and put it in front of that hook. Just kind of let it rest there. And my next couple wraps are going to be around the eyes. So I'm going to go once on the far side of the dumbbell eyes. I'm going to bring it around and then do it once more. Ooh. I cut my chenille a little too short for the video. We're going to do it on the front, and then we're going to wrap that forward right there, and then we're going to do one big wrap behind the head, and then we're going to wrap back to the eye. So just kind of keeps everything right in place, and I'm going to readjust this so my thread doesn't come undone there. Oh, hooked myself. From there, I'm going to trim the excess chenille, which is over on my side. We'll get that out of the way. And then I'm just going to do a real quick whip finish on this. Oh, one more thread. Oh, send it home, break her off. And essentially that is done. Now the last thing I like to do is that last thread wrap over the body will generally kind of smush some of the chenille, but I find it's a little more durable if you do it that way. So I'll take a dubbing brush and just kind of brush out the back of that, get that chenille popped up, looking nice and happy. And essentially that is the body of it. The last thing we'll do is trim off the rabbit strip. So for length, I like to go a little bit past the length of the hook. I'll give myself 1/8 of an inch. Oh, kind of hard to see that on camera. There we go. Yeah, about 1/8 of an inch above or past the shank of the hook. We'll cut that off, and when I'm cutting, I'm practically scraping the hide with my scissors. That way I'm not cutting off hair, so it's a flat break. I just want to be cutting the hide, not the hair. So we'll snip that where it's at. And then primarily I like to fish this fly for carp. So I want this carp or this fly to stand on its head. So to help it stand on its head, I will take a little piece of 3mm red foam that I've cut into a square, a rectangle, whichever shape my little heart desires in the night. I will coat one side with some super glue, and I will stick it on the back just like that. And since I'm using UV glue, we'll zap it, make sure she's dry. Perfect. And that kind of serves, like I said, as a floatant and then as a kind of a hot spot, if you will. If I tie it in other colors like this tan version, that red is a nice little accent. So in muddy water, carp, fish, anything you're fishing for can hone in on that and, you know, see your fly. And that is all there is to the rocket worm. A super simple pattern, but super deadly as well. Just to give you an idea, when it doesn't really work super well on the hand, it works better in the water, but ooh, where are you at? There we go. It should kind of ride on its eyes like that, and then when it's in the water, it lifts up and dances just like that. So that's all there is. Let us know what you think of this fly. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, leave us some feedback. It's super helpful to us, and we'll see you on the next one.